I want to see Brock Purdy with the new coach. I feel like his dip in numbers are the same thing happened to Jimmy Garoppolo. I feel like this is a Kyle thing. And I feel like not only does Kyle,
highest rated player, highest rated quarterback coming. He was PFF's highest rated quarterback in the NFL coming into
in that case,
this game.
PFF.
I mean, either PFF's a joke or we're judging him a little too harshly off this loss. So,
well, hold on. I'm not saying that I'm judging him harshly. I still think he's good. What I'm saying is I want to see him with the new coach. I'm tired of Kyle. He did this to Jimmy, and he's going to do it to Brock again. He kills quarterbacks' confidence because he's so negative. So my question is, would you be interested in if the Niners miss the playoffs or don't win a playoff game, getting that offensive coordinator from Detroit who just put 31 on the Vikings, who own Kyle Shanahan? What do you think, Ben Johnson or Kyle Shanahan moving forward?
I like Ben Johnson. I'm a fan of Ben Johnson. I mean, I know a lot about Ben Johnson. He was a walk-on at North Carolina. He got beat out by TJ Yates. He started his coaching career at Boston College as a grad assistant. Then he spent 7 or 8 years in Miami. Then he's kind of worked his way up in Detroit. He's considered Zach Taylor, the head coach of the Bengals, says that he's brilliant. But he's not just like he's not some guy who just memorized someone's scheme. He seems legitimately creative. Yeah. I mean, they say his offensive system is influenced by Mike Martz, Darrell Bevell, Adam Gase, Clyde Christensen. Sure. Here's where they are. I mean, Detroit is second in total offense. They're second in points per game. They're second in passing offense. The Niners, by comparison, are third in total offense. The Niners, by comparison, are ninth in points per game. And look what he's doing with Goff. He's doing a better job with Goff than McVay ever did. I don't think so this is just a difference of opinion. I don't think the greatness in Detroit is Ben Johnson. I don't. I think the greatness in Detroit is Brad Holmes, I believe, the general manager who came from the Rams, because look at their personnel. They've gone right down the lists. Laporta's as good as any receiver going. They got Montgomery. They've got Gibbs. They've got, maybe the best young offensive line in the sport, led by Penei Sewell. I look at the Lions revival as Brad Holmes, a great personnel guy, came from the Rams and has systematically checked boxes, and they're just drafting awesome. Brian Branch, Aiden Hutchinson. Some of these picks are, like a Bosa. Like Aiden Hutchinson was the second pick in the draft. But if you said to me, I like Ben Johnson. I think Ben Johnson's a good coach. If the Niners decided they were going to move off of Kyle Shanahan and hire Ben Johnson, I think that would be a good name to replace him. But do I think that Ben Johnson is like the end all be all? No, I think the end all be all in Detroit is Brad Holmes. I think that he has gone there and they have awesome talent. And I think that ultimately that like Brett Veach has done a much better job than John Lynch over the last 7 or 8 drafts. I think Brett Veach and Taub and Spags and the people around Reed are. But the question isn't whether Ben Johnson is the end all be all. It's just the question is, do you think he could do a better job with this quarterback and this team than Kyle's done? I don't think. I think the key to the Lions is their personnel. I mean, was Goff? The Niners have pretty good personnel. Look at this draft where they knocked it out of the park. They have a very good scouting department. Precedes John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan. I don't know if I'd call it a very good scouting department. The Niners' first-round picks in this they've invested 7 draft number 1 picks. Those might have been Kyle's picks. Javon Kinlaw, Mike McGlinchey, Reuben Foster, and Solomon Thomas. Those 5 players might have been Kyle's picks. 7 number 1s. They've only had 9 number 1s. The only other number 1s are Bosa, who was the second pick in the draft. He literally drafted himself. And Pearsall, who yesterday got 1.9 yards of separation. That was Kyle's pick. I'm just saying, I don't know whose pick they were, but the Niners personnel is the reason I think the Niners are eroding. You can't miss. They've only been there for 9 number 1s. You can't miss on 7 number 1s out of 9 and maintain this awesome roster. I mean, I like Lynch. I'm a Lynch fan, but come on. I mean, it's the players. If Kyle had better players, I think he'd be better. I think Johnson's got really great players. I mean, I can make an argument that Laporta's the best receiving tight end, that Montgomery and Gibbs are the best tandem running backs, that Amon-Ra and Jameson Williams really fit together. They've got Penei Sewell and Taylor Decker and Frank Ragnow. They get the makings of the best offensive line. I mean, I like the Lions personnel. Brian Branch, stud. Aiden Hutchinson, stud. I mean, I like what Brad Holmes has done there. But I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that
players. The Niners were just favored to beat the Chiefs by like 1.5. It seemed like the odds makers thought that the Niners roster was pretty good, and they lost by 10, and it could have been more. I think the biggest disparity in that game was between Andy Reid and Kyle Shanahan. I think it's bigger than the players. I think it's the coaches. And you mentioned like what is Schneider? What are Schneider and Sorensen doing on this team? Like that's the best Kyle can do. Harbaugh could do a whole lot better than that. I'd like to know who could Ben Johnson bring Robert Saleh back? I'm sure Kyle could.
I mean, I guess I'd have to know more. Like you tell me if Ben Johnson's coming here, who's going to be the GM? Does he have final say on personnel?
Keep John Lynch. I would keep John Lynch.
Is John Lynch going to be happy with parting from Kyle Shanahan? I mean, I don't know that Shanahan is the problem. I think that the lack of players is the problem. They are slow. The 49ers are a slow team on the perimeter. Very slow. You don't think the O-line's great. The D-line's regressed. You just told me Bosa is the most overrated player. The linebackers are Fred Warner and just guys. I mean, the big bad Niners have evaporated before our eyes. They don't have nearly the talent that they've had at any point in this regime. They have backslid talent-wise. You can't have an entire draft of Ty Davis-Price, Danny Gray, Drake Jackson. I mean, they literally have blown.
Who wanted those guys, though? But we can't sit here and act like Kyle has no say on personnel.
I don't know. Do you know who has say? I don't know.
We know that Kyle Shanahan has say on personnel.
But I mean, I can't tell you this was Kyle's guy, that was Lynch's guy, this was Lynch and Kyle's guy. That was Kyle didn't want
to act like Kyle's just the head coach and he's been given these players and they've failed him. It's like, no, he's involved in every decision.
Kyle is responsible for it all. So I guess if you want to hold his feet to the fire, it's fair because he was hired first. He's making all the money. Lynch was hired under him. It's all Kyle's fault.
He's involved in the decision-making process and he has the final say.
But I don't know if he made those picks or if he deferred. I don't know. I don't know if the Niner personnel department is bad or if Kyle, I think there's a very good chance that Kyle wanted Joe Williams, wanted Dante Pettis, wanted Jalen Hurd, wanted CJ Beathard.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
All in the first couple rounds.
Uh-huh.
And for those offensive players who are obviously all busts, those Kyle has to take responsibility.
Correct.
But
I'm with you.
As far as like why is Detroit having a renaissance, I'll credit Brad Holmes. Now, I'm not saying that Ben Johnson wouldn't be a great coach. I mean, he might be a great coach. And you know what? There's a weird vibe around this Niner team all year. Kyle seems exhausted. Lynch seems exhausted. It feels like there's a vibe around the team that like we don't know the real story. Like there's some backstory as far as the relationship between Jed or like what Jed's told these guys or what their expectations are. I get the feeling that we don't really know. Like we're going to find out at the end of this year what the score is inside the building. And I feel like I'm on the outside looking in on that. That's how.
Your take with this team with Brock just now is that he's having a great year, but the infrastructure around him is letting him down. Well, to me, that's Kyle's. That's Kyle's infrastructure. Well. And if that's how you feel, I wouldn't necessarily dispute it. I like Brock a lot, and I think his degraded numbers probably are a function of Kyle Shanahan's system getting certain coaches figuring out just to use man-to-man coverage and how to beat him. So I would like to see Brock before he's traded or given an extension or either extreme with the new coach. I just feel like, yes, Brad Holmes is doing great, but you cannot deny what Ben Johnson has done with
But we do this every time. We do this every single time. We claim that, hey, we're not going to be knee-jerk, and then they lose one game and we're firing the coach. They've been in the Final Four. Now, granted, in football, there is no Final Four. But we in college basketball, hey, if you make it to the Final Four, you're a star. Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch have made it to the Final Four a lot. So that means there's a lot of coaches and general managers that aren't as accomplished as they are. So I don't know that we can sit here every time and say, hey, we're not going to go knee jerk, and then they lose a game. We're firing the coach and we're running the quarterback out. I just think I'm not saying that there's no argument for it. And I'm willing to listen to an argument for it. I'm not Kyle Shanahan's stepbrother, or you know what I mean? I'm not related to him. I'm not related to Lynch. I'm not related to Purdy. It's not like my brother-in-law. I'm open-minded to listen to anybody who says that, you know what? Kyle's not the guy. I know people who are in football who told me initially, Kyle Shanahan is going to jerk you guys off forever, and you're never going to win shit. And I've had people who told me that in 2017 when they hired him. So, I mean, I've always had this kind of like, well, I don't know. I'm not really sure. He's gotten some results, though, and they haven't won the Super Bowl. But once again, Reed, hired in 99, wins his first Super Bowl in 2019. Mm-hmm. So it took 21 seasons.
But he had to go to a different team, and it wasn't necessarily guaranteed that he was going to figure it out with the Eagles. Yeah. And my question is, despite all the good things that Kyle Shanahan has done in the past, if he misses the playoffs this year and the Niners miss their Super Bowl window with this particular roster and these vets that were very expensive, I mean, how do you not?
There's no excuse.
Like, how do you not? How does your mind not wander to like, well, could Bill Belichick do a better job with this?
I mean, great.
You know what I'm saying, like, is Kyle really the best? No one could do a better job with this roster. Like, it's very expensive. We're not rebuilding. I mean, I don't understand. But again, they haven't missed the playoffs yet. They may go on a run like they have each of the last 3 seasons.
What you just said changes the dynamic dramatically on today. Today, they have a great chance to win the NFC West.
Sure.
If somehow they miss the playoffs, and that means they didn't, that means either the Rams, the Seahawks, or the Cardinals won the division instead, they will have lost the division to a subpar team. And at that point, I think you do have to have everything on the table, from the evaluation of Lynch, Purdy, Shanahan, everybody.
Sure. I agree. But we're not there yet. We're so far from there.
That's a big one.
Okay, I agree with that.
Like, we're not there yet, right? But if they miss the playoffs, that means that Seattle was better, or Arizona, or the Rams. Those teams are all less talented, and if those teams make the playoffs and win this division over the Niners, everything, including the future of Shanahan, Lynch, Purdy, all of it has to be evaluated again.
Well, I think what's scary for the Niners right now is the injuries are mounting, and the schedule is brutal. It's freaking brutal. I mean, like, we assume they're going to beat the Cowboys, but the Cowboys beat the Steelers, and the Niners haven't beaten a team as good as the Steelers. So you can't just assume the Niners are going to beat anyone. Then they got the Bucks after a bye week. They could win that, but that's on the road. Then they have the Seahawks. They should win that. Then after that, they got Green Bay, Buffalo. Like, this is no joke. You got the Bears, who are improving. You got Rams toward the end of the year. They could be healthy by then. Like, it's a tough one. It's a gauntlet.
Well, I'll tell you, the one that nobody's talking about is Tampa. I mean, Tampa is scoring points at a level right now, and the 49er offense just had 12 points until the last garbage drive. 12 points at home on a bright, sunny day on the West Coast with no wind, no snow, no rain, no conditions. 12 points.